Well, hi everyone, wherever you are around the world. Thank you for joining us today in this special event. My name is İremnaz. I'm the Customer Success Manager at the Prota software. And today we are so excited for introducing you to the brand new version of the ProtaStructure Suite. Well, the new version is on its way to be released soon. And today we'll get some major spoilers from two brilliant gentlemen, our product manager, Mustafa Tümer, and our technical operations manager, Altuğ Güler. By the way, before starting the presentation, I'm going to remind you that you can write your questions to the questions box. Our technical support team are ready to answer your questions while we are making the presentation. Okay, so for starters, let me give you an overview. Well, ProtaStructure Suite is an all-in-one structural engineering software which is developed aiming to support fellow engineers from all over the world. So for this purpose, the code coverage of the software got even more enhanced with comprehensive and new seismic code for RC and steel buildings for commonly used codes including the ACI 318 and the Eurocode 8. Furthermore, dedicated combination groups for ultimate limit state and serviceability limit state checks in both steel and RC members have been introduced. Well, at Prota, we are passionate about earthquake engineering and helping you to shape the world with safe structures. The 2025 version also comes with some new advanced analysis capabilities, including multi-mode pushover analysis and model vertical earthquake analysis. We are excited to introduce you to the new modeling tools as well. With the new version, you'll be able to easily model space stresses and castellated beams. Also, a number of new capabilities have been introduced to enhance your user experience throughout the modeling process. Well, I'm seeing some familiar names in the attendee list. So I believe as the members of the Prota community, they already know that we truly value maximizing your team's efficiency. And for this purpose, we continuously improve the BIM integration of the ProtaStructure Suite. With the 2025 version, you will be able to export steel connections to Idea Statica. Also, you will take advantage of the updated IFC and SAF support. The analysis post-processor has also been enhanced with features including pushover and time history result visualization, improved solid model view, multiple selection, and various new functionalities. So far, we have mentioned modeling, analysis, design, and of course, we didn't forget about the detailing process of your project delivery. ProtaStructure Suite 2025 is coming with an even more comprehensive support for both non-seismic, and seismic reinforced concrete design and detailing following codes of various countries, including the United States, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Philippines, India, and Thailand. Last but definitely not the least, the game-changing steel detailing tool, ProtaSteel, has been improved with a number of new capabilities. So remember, this is only a short list of what's coming with the ProtaStructure Suite 2025. Now, to unveil the details of all these new features, I'm handing over the presentation to Prota Software Product Manager Mustafa Tümer.
Thanks, İrem, for the nice introduction. And thanks for calling us brilliant. Okay, as İrem said, we have a lot of grounds to cover in ProtaStructure 2025. And maybe the most major item that we focused on was the code support. Although we support very extensively the international design and seismic codes, it's not possible for all software to support every code 100%. There will be always some gaps and missing clauses, and they need work and they need to be completed. And that's what we focused on ProtaStructure 2025. Okay, first of all, we focused on reinforced concrete column and wall design, including the seismic clauses. In fact, we are excited to introduce the improvements here. ProtaStructure 2025 is more capable now in terms of supporting seismic design provisions, such as ACI 318, especially with a focus on Chapter 18. And the codes similar to US codes, which are Colombia, Peru, Dominican Republic, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. These are also covered in terms of column and wall design. India is also covered in the new version. Or advanced seismic analysis and design technology ensures the compliance with these demanding codes and regulations with automatic checks for irregularities, for example. It's not only about the member design, but it is also about the global building checks like irregularities, relative drifts, and capacity checks. So, and that's not all, of course. We will include all these calculations in a detailed step-by-step report for transparency and confidence. And similar to the columns and shear walls, beams also follow seismic capacity design principles according to these codes. To repeat again, we support ACI 318, especially Chapter 18, Colombia, Peru, Dominican Republic, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. India is different than US codes, but we also cover it in the new version. Again, in addition to the member checks, seismic checks, and non-seismic checks, we provide detailed reports on strong column, weak beam checks, and joint shear checks to ensure ductility in a specific joint. And these new additions, of course, and improvements are sitting on top of the existing global building checks, as I mentioned, such as irregularity checks, relative drift checks, and non-structural member checks, etc. So ProtaStructure is much more complete in the sense of non-seismic and seismic design checks in this new version. Another important improvement in the new version is the use of tension shift in shear walls according to Eurocode 8. ProtaStructure will now automatically calculate the tension shift and apply the moment and shear force envelopes according to the procedure outlined in Eurocode 85424. Seismic codes usually allow the relative drift checks to ignore minimum base shear and maximum period limitations in the equivalent static load approach. This is in fact based on observations in the past earthquakes and on the fact that tall buildings are more drift controlled rather than force controlled. So when a response spectrum analysis is performed, the forces and displacements are magnified with different scale factors. ProtaStructure will now more elaborately consider the seismic code clauses that outlines the scaling and limitation of drifts. For example, in India and Peru codes, displacements are not to be scaled when RSA is performed. On the other hand, AC07 requires the scaling of displacement with a different factor, ignoring minimum base shear and limiting periods. And these are all reported and supported in ProtaStructure 2025, and details are presented in a neat report. Another important undertaking for us was to implement the seismic checks of steel members according to AIC 341 and Turkish codes. That means Eurocode is not fully supported yet, and it is work in progress. That should be underlined at the beginning. So what's done? First of all, seismic provisions limit us in usage of steel profiles. For special moment frames, compact sections must be used in design. A ProtaStructure will now check this and fail the design if the requirement is not met by the seismic code. In addition to this, in eccentrically braced frames, seismic link checks must be performed and these are also now in the software. Other than that, the seismic requirements scattered around the code are collected and checked. Results are reported with their associated clauses in the detailed report. Shear wall end zones, or in other words, boundary elements, are essential in maintaining a ductile behavior, especially in critical plastic regions of shear walls. Each seismic code has different regulations and calculation and curtailment of end zones. For example, ACI and Eurocode follow a strain-based approach in the end zone length calculation, while Turkish code requires a minimum ratio of the wall length. Also, for some codes, end zones may not be necessary outside the critical height, while a reduced end zone length is used in other codes. So code requirements really differ with each other. ProtaStructure supported shear wall and core wall end zones for a long time, but in the new version, it is just improved more. We now allow you to set the critical heights, end zone usage, and end zone length easily in a batch mode editor. And let's proceed and talk about the design improvements that we have made. The load combination system in ProtaStructure is very flexible and allows you to define load cases and load combinations freely and automatically with the correct factors and permutations according to the design and seismic codes. In the new version, we have put a lot of effort in the load combinations to make the design process more seamless and practical. First of all, we started with improving the user interface and user experience. Instead of the previous large matrix-style table, you will now find a more readable and clear presentation that color codes the load cases and their combination factors. Editing the combinations is also easy. Double-clicking in one of them allows you to customize the coefficients as you wish. But the most important improvement is the separation of RC and steel, ULS and SLS combinations. I will come to that in the next slide. Steel and concrete design and serviceability checks require different combinations, as you are well aware. Knowing this, we followed a more structured approach and we created different groups for steel and RC, ULS and SLS combinations. You will now be able to access these combinations in their respective category in the load editor. For example, if you want to create steel ultimate limit state and serviceability limit state combinations, you have to select the necessary option in the loading generator first. Steel members will only honor the steel combinations during the design. Similarly, RC members will only use the concrete combinations. You can also discriminate between combination groups on the diagram window. And I will again talk more about SLS combinations in the next slide. So now you know that the new combination system in ProtaStructure is much more flexible. We now support separate ultimate limit state and serviceability limit state groups for steel and concrete members. A valuable addition to this ability is to create the user-defined serviceability limit state combinations. The SLS combinations you create will be automatically used in the vertical deflection checks. You can check the results of SLS combinations in the detailed diagram window as well. So, in fact, we will continue providing more improvements in this area in the future, including detailed serviceability checks to Eurocode and ACI, and also introducing lateral serviceability checks. Another important aspect that we focused on was the notional load combinations. And in the countries where wind loads or seismic loads do not govern, but the design the minimum lateral loads, also called notional loads, are used. The story loads are usually calculated as a fraction of dead and live load. But notional loads have another use for us. In structural design, we may need to consider them additionally in some of the combinations or all combinations to consider the imperfections in the structure. This is not straightforward because notional load case coefficients differ for each loading code. Some codes specify custom coefficients, whereas some of the codes, for some of the codes, notional loads use the same coefficients with dead and live loads. And besides, the dead and live loads coefficients fractions that are used to calculate the magnitude also needs to be customizable. All of these requirements are now met in ProtaStructure. You can now flexibly apply notional loads to any combination type with any load case coefficient. You can also interrogate the load case results in the analysis post-processor, as usual, of course. One of the mostly asked features was to design the purlins and girts for non-seismic combinations only. And that's what we delivered in ProtaStructure 2025. You can now ignore the seismic combinations in purlin and girt design, also thanks to the new combination architecture that we introduced in the software. Another small but effective addition is the manual slab strips in the design report. In addition to automatically designed slab rebars, we may need to manually put rebars in the slabs as necessary. That's a very usual requirement. Previously, in the previous versions, the manual strip rebars were not included in the design report. Now, with the new version, they are in the report for a more complete design submission. Of course, we also improved the software, the products, in terms of advanced earthquake engineering, and we introduced new methodologies here. In fact, we are very excited about these methodologies. I believe that you will welcome them very happily. First, one of the most important things that we did is introducing the model vertical earthquake analysis. And as you know, for the buildings with transfer columns, I mean discontinuous columns, large slab or beam spans, large cantilevers or slanting columns, the approximate static vertical calculation, earthquake calculation, may not be sufficient. Besides, the seismic codes require the use of model vertical earthquake in these scenarios. For example, Bureau codes only allow the use of model vertical earthquake analysis. And for this purpose, we first introduced the vertical acceleration spectrum in ProtaStructure that's accessible on the seismic parameters window. A vertical spectrum is also reported in pre-analysis report. Second, we are now automatically calculating the vertical mass distribution. In other words, the vertical mass matrix. Slabs should be meshed to be able to consider the mass distribution accurately, of course. We then automatically calculate the vertical vibration modes of the structure. Number of modes can be customized by the user. And the analysis post-processor allow you to examine the vertical mode shapes in a detailed manner. Of course, a mode superposition analysis in vertical direction is performed, and results are obtained either in absolute terms or with dominant mode signs. It's not finished. In order to avail the results for the design, we automatically create the combinations. The most important thing to consider in the combinations is using the alternating sign in the load combinations to catch the most critical scenario. And multi-mode pushover analysis is a huge addition to the ProtaStructure analysis arsenal. We spend a lot of effort on it. So single mode pushover analysis was in the software for a long time, but single mode pushover analysis is restricted to relatively regular buildings with small torsional irregularity, with higher model mass participation, and it's valid for low to mid-rise structures. But for the buildings suffering from higher mode effects or irregularities, single mode pushover will not be sufficient. In these cases, nonlinear time history analysis is used, but this analysis is computationally demanding, considering the number of accelerograms, acceleration time steps, material nonlinearity, and convergence conditions. Knowing these facts, a middle ground between single mode pushover and full nonlinear time history analysis is the multi-mode pushover analysis. In the new version of ProtaStructure, we have adopted the Chopra's model pushover methodology. In simple terms, we perform pushover analysis for each mode and combine their results. After the results are obtained, a detailed assessment report is generated. The pushover displacements and plastic hinge mechanism can be examined in detail, but I'll leave it to my colleague Altuğ for next part of the presentation. You can find the details of multi-mode pushover analysis and its limitations in the literature. Yes, multi-mode pushover is also has also restrictions in terms of its theoretical background and applicability. Of course, we have other enhancements. In addition to the new methodologies we developed in the new version, we have worked really hard to make further optimizations and streamlining to the underlying system itself. ProtaStructure is now more capable in result reading and performance in nonlinear analysis. We have made improvements for pushover analysis parameters screen. First of all, it provides a much better flow for selecting monitored nodes. And there are now member-wise override options for nonlinear modeling parameters. That means you can select a member and model it as a linear elastic member during the assessment. You will now have better control over time history analysis by changing the recorder resolution. We have seamlessly integrated the OpenSea's with parallel processing for better UI representation and of the analysis progress. And we have implemented modeling improvements for better convergence. And finally, we have made performance tweaks that will create difference in your daily routine. So, so far so good with my presentations. I think I covered the grounds for the code improvements, code enhancements, and the design improvements. So I'll leave it to Altuğ now for introducing the new modeling tools that we introduced in ProtaStructure. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mustafa, for bombarding us with all this information in a nutshell. You have covered a lot of ground in terms of design and earthquake seismic code clauses, but yet you have managed to touch the details of the code clauses in seismic codes. I appreciate that. We have made a lot of enhancements in terms of design and seismic stuff, adding new code support, but it didn't stop there. We have added new modeling tools and we have enhanced a lot of features there. Let's start with space trusses. ProtaStructure offers powerful steel modeling macros like trusses, purlins, girths, braces, and so on. With these macros, creating a fabrication steel model with accurate eccentricities and member positions is very in ProtaStructure 2025, we have developed space truss macro. This is a powerful addition to our modeling arsenal. With this macro, you can specify a region and insert a space geometrically. You can control parameters such as cell size, number of rows and columns, curvature, and more. We also have to enhance existing features around recently introduced ones. So, for example, you can extend an existing column to a selected space truss so that it becomes very easy to place the intermediate supports after space truss insertion. There is a dedicated design interface where you can check the sub-members and control the whole process in a well-coordinated environment. Castellated beams are widely preferred for their efficiency. You can increase the depth of a standard I-beam by simply cutting from the web and putting the pieces on top of each other. Or sometimes you just want to perforate the web to enable piping. Previous versions of ProtaSteel, oh sorry, I think the animation is not working. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so with the previous versions of ProtaSteel, actually, it already allowed modeling and detailing of the castellated beams. With this new version, 2025 version, now you can directly create castellated steel beams inside ProtaStructure. It is very easy to create and to manipulate. The modified section properties like the moment of inertia, the areas, the shear areas, etc., are all taken into account during the analysis. Currently, we are working on the design procedure, and the fully detailed design report also will be available with the following minor updates, upcoming updates. During modeling, sometimes you need a member to be copied to an exact distance, but you cannot find a snapping point to hold on to. Copy special command helps you copy your member with given offset distances in global X, Y, and Z directions. You can also provide a repetition count so that the selected member gets copied multiple times by the given offset values. With the following minor updates, again, we will provide the move special command as well. You will be able to move axis independent members freely, just like the copy special command here. Again, with this new version, now you can directly assign area loads on claddings using the modeling interface. To make it even more practical, we have included predefined load libraries. To define self-weight, for example, you can select a sheeting from the library. So for self-load, dead load, live load, snow, rain, and roof load cases, you can simply enter the magnitude values to apply full area loads. ProtaStructure is a very flexible and extensive loading editor, as you know. You can use it to apply any type of load from any direction to any member. If you open up the load editor, you can see the generated load vectors and elaborate the loads further if you need here. Again, you can also create your own manual load cases and combinations in ProtaStructure. And in such cases, then if this is your case, then you can still use the load editor to create load vectors defined in manual load cases. 3D view is very essential as it helps us to visualize and manipulate the whole model in 3D. But there are some cases where you may want to isolate a story and walk through it without the distraction of all the elements in the rest of the model. For such cases, you can now use isolate and unisolate story option in the right-click menu. You can also use Ctrl plus left or right keys to isolate and unisolate the current story. Also in isolated mode, you can use Ctrl up and down keys to change the stories. Cantilever beams are designed and detailed exclusively. It is very handy to see the cantilever ends of the beams during inspection of a complicated model. ProtaStructure now allows you to spot cantilever ends in 3D modeling environment. So you can follow the exact load transfer mechanism. Another improvement has been made to column end release options. Now they can be set for all 6 degrees of freedoms at each end. As you know, ProtaStructure creates the analytical model out of a central physical model. That means program takes initiative and makes some engineering judgment. But we know that it is important to allow users to override decisions taken by the software. So as Prota software, you always seek for the correct blend of automation and user interference. More flexibility in column entries is actually driven mostly by the still modeling requirements. This will help you build more optimized models. One important strength of ProtaStructure is providing powerful tools to accurately create a physical structural model. For this purpose, we have developed macros for steel members, such as purlins, trusses, as I told before, and so forth. These macro members aim to provide a practical modeling experience, as well as a seamless detailing where you won't need any further editing. Girth section alignment options are now extended to support more variations, such as centered, aligned top, and aligned bottom. You can now directly select the primary members, which will support the purlins. This allows you to insert purlins more precisely. We still keep the previous first and last member insertion method as it is, because it is very fast actually. But this multiple member selection method provides more flexibility, particularly if your primary members are not following a linear path like the case shown here. With this version, we have brought the continuous purlin definition. If you select this option, purlins are cut from the closest support to the given cut length setting, so that they never exceed the manufactured steel length. In between the cut points, they are treated as continuous, and entries are assigned accordingly. They are also exported to Prota steel in this manner. We are working on this feature to be brought to girths as well. I suppose it will be available again in a following minor update of this 2025 version. And other modeling improvements, there are several other improvements and user requests actually, such as relabeling axis and frame members. Relabeling, now you can relabel axis and frame members, and relabeling options for other steel members are also coming soon. We actually continuously improve the member tables as we introduce new member types and features for the members. Recently, we have included editing of section and support types in this table, so you can edit these properties for a set of members at once. Glass is a widely practiced material for facades of high-rise buildings and office partition walls. We have added glass material layer and different glass wall loads to the partition wall load library. So you can quickly assign glass wall loads on slabs and other primary load carrying members now. We have added face-to-face twin L profiles to our compound steel profile catalog. With all these and continuously developing features, you can now enjoy a more intuitive modeling process. Yes, now let's talk about a little bit about our advanced beam integration tools. Idea Statica is a widely adopted piece of software for finite element analysis and design of connections. Prota team can now communicate with Idea Statica. We're going to elaborate on this feature a little more in Prota steel section actually, so I just skip for now. IFC import and export. Yes, importing and exporting a consistent IFC format is a challenging task. There are various adaptations and objects employed by different architectural and structural software on the market. Unfortunately, data representation and consistency is a very big problem in seamless IFC communication. With 2025 version, we keep our commitment to continue to develop our IFC import and export links. We have fine-tuned the IFC support with wide range of models we received from user feedback. I'd like to thank you all for your support in this regard. While trying to support all these models that mostly came from you, actually, we found ourselves adding more and more object types into our definitions database. A few examples of these are like this IFC drive profile, IFC plate, IFC polygonal face set, IFC Boolean results, etc. And additionally, we can now export column drops panels to IFC with this version. Again, I'd like to emphasize that we are keen to enhance IFC communication with every update. In ProtaStructure, you can assign different concrete grades to different stories or individual members. You can also define a default concrete grade to be used by all members for which no customization is made. Although ProtaDetails provides all of the detailing output, you can still get the concrete and formwork quantity takeoff for the whole model in ProtaStructure. We have made a few improvements here. With the new version, you can get a categorized quantity takeoff in your projects using multiple concrete grades. So you will know how much the contractor needs to order for each grade of concrete for each floor. We have also made a minor improvement here. So now the concrete quantity takeoff includes column drops as well. Analysis post-processing. We have made significant enhancements to user interactions in the analytical post-processor. You can now select a part of the model by boxing around them. You can isolate these selected members, show them, or hide them. All the view options now apply for those members, so that you can review, for example, the displacement results or analysis result diagrams for that part of the model. There is also another similar option, although the whole model is visible now. If I click the focus on selected members only button, then only selected member results are displayed. As you see, it is very practical to focus on a single or a group of members of interest to study the behavior of them. Another enhancement, again, is for easy access of font size during inspection. We have placed two buttons under General tab of the analytical model. We now also save the displacement visibility status and some of the status on the ribbon. There was a very good reason actually not to save them, but we have worked on them. This may provide you with better performance while opening analytical model windows for particularly bigger models. Nonlinear analysis results are now better presented in the analytical post-processor. Plastic hinge states are color-coded in real time, so you can spot the plastic hinge formations by running a step-by-step animation. You can run through the pushover curve in this animation. You can see the hinge state color legend at the bottom right corner. We do not display limited damage states by default, but you can turn it on from the settings if you want. These limit states follow the seismic codes. Currently, we are working on support of ASC 421 in this regard. It will be available with the upcoming updates. But also, you can override the plastic hinge state limits manually, like here. Also, time history animation is renewed as well. You can select the time history function from the right pane and run an animation on it to see plastic hinge deformations. Again, the limits and all other settings can be adjusted to cater your needs here. We have also implemented solid member views to see the physical members as paint extrusions around the analytical lines. This will give you a better grasp of how analytical model integrates with the physical model. And of course, that works for the part of the model as well. In addition to dressing the analytical members with physical correspondences, you can now see the solid view with displaced members and FE counters together. So they are both color-coded and reflected now. Yes, finally, as a design software, ProtaStructure implements a wide variety of complete seismic codes. Analysis post-processor actually aims to show the direct results coming from the finite element analysis. However, being a design software, we try to provide as many options as possible to ease users' way to compare the analysis results and design outputs. In this version, we have added display final layers button. When this button is on, the minimum required steel area by the selected codes is checked against the calculated steel area, and the governing one is shown as the contour value. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about the Prota details enhancements and RC detailing enhancements. We have developed a new drawing style for beam elevations. We have improved this a bit further, which we call the ruler style. In this representation, a ruler is shown with the beam rebars instead of schematic view of the beam axis. This is preferred in some counter practices. It is optional and can be turned on and off anytime, and also you can use different styles together in a same drawing. Well, the critical regions at beam supports are measured as 2 times h from left and right support faces. For Eurocode DCM structures, the critical length is measured as 1 times height, and for DCH structures, 1.5 times. With the new version, you can now specify the minimum support region width. You must uncheck calculate support region per code option and specify a support region width from the list. The value that you specify will be used as the critical support region length, that is link confinement length. The setting can be accessed from settings, beam, steel bar selection, and links. Another new option was introduced to lap top and bottom bars at 2H away from the beam supports. This curtailment option is necessary for the special and intermediate moment resisting frames. Again, you can find it under beam curtailment settings. A new beam rebar pattern, which is called standard pattern 8, was introduced with this new version. This new pattern is similar to bent-up pattern, but it does not use bent-up bars. This is essentially a non-caging 2-layer pattern where top bars are extended by 0.25 L and bottom bars are extended by lap distance to the adjacent spans. Similar to all other patterns, you can customize this pattern as well. Here, hanger bars are included, and web bars are automatically distributed to the sides if necessary. If you have pad footings or pile caps in your model, it's now possible to generate a detailed reinforcement table like the one that's already available for the beam rebar schedule. We already have the quantity table export feature actually in Prota details. For all kind of tables actually in Prota details, they can be exported outside. But we have enhanced our export options with this version. Now you can directly export to an Excel file instead of CSV. This brings you a very good advantage in terms of the shape type. So you can add this rebar forms into the exported file. So it is more presentable, and it was a high user request actually. So I think I'm almost done. Oh yes, I'm done. Thank you very much for listening to me. Again, I'm handing over to Mustafa. Hope you're enjoying our webinar. So see you soon. Thank you very much.
Okay, wow, that was intense, ambitious. Thank you for the presentation. It's really exciting to see what's coming with ProtaStructure 2025. Okay, so in fact we are almost finished with the webinar. So we have a couple of slides left. I hope you are enjoying, and I hope your questions are getting answered. If you have any, please feel free to ask in the questions panel if you didn't already, our team is waiting for you. Anyway, let's get to the point. So with every version, we are aiming to introduce new features and improvements to ProtaSteel as well, because ProtaSteel is our flagship product for steel detailing and fabrication and connection design. So it's we know that it's very important for users who are dealing with steel projects as well. So for that purpose, we know that ProtaSteel provides detailed design reports on mostly used connections, but analyzing complicated or user-defined steel connections with component-based finite element analysis, in other words, CB, FEM, may be inevitable in your projects. In Prota, we believe in open collaboration and creating links between our products and industry-leading software. Our last edition is the IdeaStatica FEA links between ProtaSteel and IdeaStatica. You can now export your automatically created connection or user-defined connection to IdeaStatica and carry on if you need to. All you have to do is to initiate the IdeaStatica checkbot in ProtaSteel and select primary members and connection components by following the instructions on the wizard window. But since ProtaSteel is also a sophisticated fabrication software, there are some kinks in the IdeaStatica API that we are trying to work around for the transfer of internal forces. Column-based connections are one of the most critical components of special steel moment frames. Traditionally, exposed base plates are preferred for low to mid-rise buildings, while embedded base plate connections are the norm for larger, taller buildings. This type of connection is common in seismic areas such as Chile, especially for industry facility buildings. This method aims at concentrating all plasticity in the extended region of the anchor bolts. Especially in the intense load scenarios, the traditional embedded base plate thickness may be unpractically high. In order to overcome this design issue, exposed base plates can be used to reduce base plate thicknesses. This connection can be used for any type of profiles in ProtaSteel, but they are particularly useful for cruciform columns, which tend to be used to counter the high bending moments and axial stresses. As you know, ProtaStructure supports the curved members, and we can export these curved members to ProtaSteel. In the previous versions, we weren't able to create the connections for these curved members in ProtaSteel, but with the new version, we now support beam-to-beam and beam-to-column end plates and stiffened end plate connections for curved frames. But pay attention, the frame approach angles must be close to perpendicular for these connection types. Extended end plates can be used as pre-qualified seismic connections, as you are well aware. They are designed to create a rigid and moment-resisting connection between a steel beam and a column. Extended end plate connections provide excellent performance in resisting seismic loads, especially in high-risk areas. In this connection, the bolts are internal bolts between the flanges of the beam, are used to attach the end plate to the beam and the column flange. The end plate extends beyond the column flanges, allowing the use of bolts other than the interior ones. In the new ProtaSteel, you can now increase the number of bolts in the extended plates outside the beam flanges. ProtaStructure and ProtaSteel enjoy a seamless data communication and update system. You can update the model in ProtaStructure and reflect the changes to ProtaSteel seamlessly, even if you finished connecting and editing your model in ProtaSteel. However, as the size of the model increases, the update operation can start taking time. That's because all of the members and connections need to be checked, and connections need to be adjusted to their new location or size if an update is necessary. With the latest ProtaSteel, you can now select a subset of members in ProtaStructure and update only the selected members in ProtaSteel. That will accelerate your design process when you need small partial updates. And that was all about ProtaSteel in a new version in a nutshell. Irem has additional things to say. She's looking at me anxiously. So I'll hand over you to Irem. Irem's good hands, and we are listening to you.
Well, thank you. I mean, that was an insightful, long webinar, but I believe all our attendees are enjoying the session. I can see that they're asking some questions, and our team is answering them. Okay, before concluding this session, I'm gonna tell you some things to, help you explore the new version and already existing features, so on. Okay, so as you know, we release many updates because the improvement is a never-ending process, and you can find all the details of all these versions and all these updates on our website and our Prota Help Center, actually. In the knowledge base, there is a separate page just focusing on the release notes. You can check out those documents to find out all the details about all the new versions, all the new features and tools. Also, in addition to the release notes, this platform also provides you a wide range of e-learning materials. You can find a number of technical documents and e-learning materials in formats, actually. In addition to that, there's a community page where you can communicate with other licensed users of the ProtaStructure Suite. And also, this is the platform where our licensed users create their support kits for reaching out to our technical support team. So this is the Learning Hub and the Center of Technical Support. I highly recommend you to utilize and take advantage of this platform. We also have a YouTube channel. There are over 500 videos here, providing, step-by-step tutorials. And also you can find all the webinar recordings on this channel. We're going to upload the recording of this one as well in the, following days, hopefully tomorrow. So I, again, recommend you to stay tuned. In addition to the YouTube channel, we also have accounts on all these platforms. We do share a lot on these platforms and our website. You can find us, you can follow us. I mean, we do share a lot, but you may still have some questions. And in that case, please feel free to reach out. Our team will reach out to you as soon as possible with the answers and solutions to all your problems. So, well, thank you for joining us today in this special event. Just like Mr. Altuğ Güler said, we are bombarded with all the information, but I believe this was a fun session. Also, I want to thank to all our users sharing their feedback with us, because as our managers highlighted, some of the major new features are based on your feedback. So, I mean, as the customer success department, we are calling you, emailing you on a periodic basis. It may seem like we are spamming you, but I promise we are not. As you can see, we are listening to your feedback and actually implementing them on our software. So thank you all for joining us, listening to this long webinar, and we genuinely appreciate your participation today.
Yes, thank you very much for listening, paying attention. Cheers. See you next time.
Yes, that's all we have to say. Thank you for your time today, for listening to us, and we appreciate your feedback and your valuable time. I hope we can continue helping your business, adding value to you and to your engineering practice. See you in the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.